Hello and welcome to the Now Spinning Magazine podcast with me, Phil Aston. And on this episode, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Dana Gillespie. And I put here, with a career spanning decades, Dana has made an indelible mark on the world of music, theatre and film. From her beginnings in the vibrant London music scene of the 1960s to her memorable role in the original London production of Jesus Christ Superstar. Known for her close friendship and collaboration with David Bowie, as well as a prolific solo career with 75 albums, I think, if I've got that correct.
Yeah, it's 74, actually.
74.
But hey, who's counting?
And you're about to release your 74th album called First Love, which comes out on May the 31st, I believe.
That is right. And it's an album that's completely different to whatever else I've done. I mean, okay, I started out as a folky singer in the 60s because that's what female singers did in those days. Yeah. 70s was very kind of glam because Bowie and I had the same manager. But I mean, I knew him from the 60s. We've always been friends. 80s was, well, kind of 80s was mullets, high heels, and wearing kind of weird stuff. And I was working a lot in Austria because I was trying to get over the management that had me and Bowie. I was stuck in a litigation thing that lasted for a couple of years. So was he. Then 90s. Well, then, of course, from 1980 onwards, I did blues. I kind of felt that it was time to get out of the glam thing of Weren't Born a Man, which was the album I did with Bowie, although I was able to reciprocate and be a backing singer on the Ziggy Stardust album. But he was my backing singer on Weren't Born a Man because of the Andy Warhol song that he wrote for me. So then and then I'd go to India a lot, so I had 10 albums that were in Sanskrit. You wanted to know where the years went by to make up to 74 albums. And I ran the Mustique Blues Festival for 20 years. And I made an album there every year was a charity thing. So that finally gets us up to now, it was last year that Marc, Almond and Penna, who co-produced the album, they both said to me, look, we'd like to produce an album with you. And as I've always produced myself and written most of my own stuff and done everything from the mixing and organizing the labels, even when it came out on a proper label, I did all the work myself because that's what I'd always done, except in the 60s when I was kind of learning. And then I thought, well, I know these guys well, and why not try it out? And it was not going to be my normal kind of blues. Blues, one knows that you are going to reach a limited audience because not everyone is a blues fan. So Marc, Almond and Penna chose 2/3 of the album. I chose a third, but they used my bits of my musicians, the London Blues Band, they're great musicians, so they don't only play blues. In fact, there's not a blues note really on there, except they are also blues musicians. And we rehearsed about 3 times, which with blues, nobody ever bothers to rehearse. You just go in there and it turns out. And it's okay. But this we rehearsed, and we at the place called the Temple of Art and Music in London, which is an amazing venue. And we went into Marc Almond's favourite studios in Dean Street Studios, and recorded in 4 days. Mixing and everything took about, I don't know, maybe another 9 days after that. The whole thing was done quite quickly. So the songs on it being very different. I mean, for example, Marc Almond said, I think you should do this song, which is Gods and Monsters, a Lana Del Rey song.
That's really very, very, in some ways different to the other songs on the album. It's very edgy, isn't it? It's very...
Well, it's got a few swear words.
Yes, it has, yeah.
Which, I was brought up old school. You never even swear. I never swore really in front of my mother, let alone on the radio or onto a record. But, she's from California, so I suppose I know life is very different there. Then Marc Almond had written a song called Brewer Street Blues because, both of us know Soho very well. When Soho was kind of fun, red light district, girls hanging out of windows and punters trying to find whatever was on the streets. It's all been sadly a bit cleaned up now. So Brewer Street blues that he wrote, I was very happy to sing. And then he and I do a duet on the Leonard Cohen song "Dance Me to the End of Love."
That's wonderful. I love that. It's one of my favorites from the record.
Really?
Yeah.
I keep going. I never quite know what's my favorite. Well, then Penna chose the Bowie song, "Can You Hear Me?" which is not what I mean. Although Bowie wrote Andy Warhol the song for me, I'd never really thought of doing a Bowie song. But Tris said he thought it might be a nice thing to do, and it comes from the original demo that Bowie did of this song, because he's recorded it again on the Young Americans album, so it's much more soul-y and everything. This is kind of taking it back to the basics. And "In a Broken Dream" is one that I chose, which is a weird song, but I remember it being a hit, and I know the writer who lives in Australia. It was an Australian outfit that made this record, and they just whacked on Rod Stewart before he was famous as the lead vocal.
That if I had to pick one track that to me is my favorite from the album at this point in time, it is that one, "In a Broken Dream."
Really?
Really. I think it's got, because what I like is a lot of these songs the tempo's changed, obviously, because you're a blues singer, and that song it's taken down, isn't it? It's a lot more like a piano ballad. Where I mean, it's not that much of a fast rock song as the original, but this version, it's melancholy, but not. It's not depressing. It's melancholy in a very reflective and uplifting way. Now, sorry to interrupt at this point, but the whole album is very reflective. And I know you said at the start that 2/3 of the music had been picked by somebody, the other people involved, and you picked another third, but you wouldn't know that. It sounds like you picked, it segues together so well as a complete piece of art.
Well, I mean, originally there were 40 songs that we were juggling with.
Wow.
So, I mean, to think about, but if it sounds like they're all sort of one thing, it's because I had to like them for a start. If I didn't like them, it wouldn't have gone past the first post. And I mean, "Boulevard of Broken Dreams" I chose just because it's often about being alone. And, you know, I'm 75 now, and you know, I made my first album in 66, or first single in 65. And in this in-between time, music has been my life. And you do walk alone if you're a musician, especially a female musician, because you're out on the road. Home life is not quite kind of normal. I've always walked alone, so I've always got a bit of a melody going on in the back of my head. Music has been my number one love. So that's why I chose that one. The single, "Spent the Day in Bed," which is the one that Penna found for me.
Yeah.
I would have chosen it. Well, I did choose it instantly. I heard it. I thought, this is so me, because I don't mind spending the odd day in bed, never have done. But it's the fact that the chorus is "Stop watching the news, because the news contrives to frighten you." Now, if this isn't the most relevant sentence ever, I get so depressed even switching on the news now.
Yeah.
Are we about to go into World War III? Somebody's stabbed somebody else. It's just a downer all the time.
Yeah.
And Morrissey, who I'd not met until last week, he was in London, but he'd sent me an email saying that he absolutely loves my version and thinks it's better than his, which is extremely nice of him. So I met him. I went with Penna, and first of all, he came to a gig of mine at the Crawdaddy Club on Friday, and then I met him the next day for a drink. Well, he said, "Come and have a cup of tea," though I had a grapefruit juice, because he doesn't drink either. And lovely fellow. People had always warned me that he was very weird. He didn't seem that weird to me at all. But the fact that he was really inquisitive and wanted to know about the album and everything. So, and I love that song, and I think it was chosen the right song to be a single then, because of the awful state the world's in.
Very true.
And a Dylan song, I chose that one. "It's Not Dark Yet." It's just, you know, Dylan writes clever lyrics. I've never sung a Dylan song before, although I've met him in the 60s and then was on tour with him in the 90s. I always felt that other people sang his songs and not me, but of all of his songs, I thought this is kind of, again, a good now thing. I'm older, so I can sing about reflective subjects. I can't remember. Well, tell me some other tracks. You've got them in front of you.
I have got them in front of me, yeah. But it has got this kind of really reflective feel. One of the things I'd like to ask you is that when you, because your voice is obviously so well suited to the blues music that you do, your style. At what point in your career is that? What inspired you to go down the route of the blues?
Well, of course, I grew up in the early 60s. In 1963, I was nearly every night, if I could, get off from school. Well, not get off from school, but stay awake the next day. I was at the Marquee Club listening to the Yardbirds, and I always loved the blues because of its reality. And blues music. If I had to be stuck on a desert island, I'd take Howling Wolf and Muddy Waters with me, and various others, because that's what I do. But I went through my folky phase, and then I went through into my glam phase in the Bowie years when cleavage was required, down to your waist, skirts were up round your neck, and high heels were really high. And I just knew that blues would be the thing I always wanted to do. My fourth album was called Ain't Gonna Play No Second Fiddle, and it was an old song that I'd learned from Bessie Smith when I was 11.
Yeah.
And I put that out as the album title. And I realized that I couldn't keep going as being glamorous all my life. When I got to 1980, I thought, this is ridiculous. I won't have a sell-by date. So I have no sell-by date with blues. You can sing blues, if you can still sing, till you're 99 plus, or till they carry you off on stage dribbling and gaga. So while the voice holds, I do it. However, one thing I've noticed is that my voice is much deeper than it used to be.
Yeah.
When I was asked to sing I Don't Know How to Love Him from Jesus Christ Superstar, which was, let's face it, just over 50 years ago, 1972, I had a kind of nice that's the wrong word, I was going to say virginal, pure folky voice. So in life, everything drops, literally, including your voice. I could sing I Don't Know How to Love Him Now, but I'd do the whole thing an octave deeper. And I think when you use a muscle, your vocal muscles, the voice gets much stronger and it goes down. I'd never wanted a high squeaky voice. And when I hear some of my first singles, I just sound like a squeaker to me. But that's what I had in those days. I'm just so happy to be doing the blues. I can go on stage if I want to in a pair of old jeans and a shirt, and they love the blues. I don't have to be glamorous. What joy is that if I want to be?
I know one of the songs that fits in that at first glance might look like to some people, how's that going to work, is Dreams by Fleetwood Mac, the Stevie Nicks song. But it does work, doesn't it? It works really, really well.
Well, it's weird. I wouldn't have chosen that in a million years. This was a Tris Penna said, why not try Dreams? And we'd put it at the bottom of the list, the least likely to be done. We'd finished all the recordings. We had about half an hour left. And Tris said, why don't we just try it? So the piano player, it's very minimalistic. And people don't realize what song it is until they've got to the bit, Thunderoni Mountains, and then suddenly go, I know this song. And I think Rumours is the highest selling LP ever. It's above even Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah. So many people will know this, but they won't know it stripped back, where you really listen to the words. And I like lyrics. I want people to listen to the words. I don't want to sing twaddle, because there's enough twaddle going out in the pop business, and there's certainly enough twaddle was on last week at the Eurovision, if one bothered to listen to the lyrics. Indeed. So I'm a mad about words.
Was that a key part of the selection process to how you whittled it down from 40 odd songs to 11? I know one of them is your own song as well, but was it lyrically you feeling like you could inhabit the song to put your own meaning out?
Yes, I had to have a feeling to it. Strangely enough, In a Broken Dream is the only one that has rather odd lyrics. The sentences like, at 9 o'clock, all good people are in bed. Well, I'm not sure if that's quite true, but the guy who wrote it, Dave Bentley, who I haven't seen for years because he lives down under, I sent him a copy, and he also came out and he said, this is the absolute best version ever. And because I've known him all these years, I first met him in maybe 1970, 71, I never bothered to question his rather odd lyrics. The lyrics are odd, but there's something about that song as well, and it has been a proven hit. But this was 50 years ago when it was a hit for Rod Stewart.
Yeah, it's as I said, there's a melancholy feel to it, but it's very positive. And I like the idea, as you said, about the song that's the single about "Don't Look at the News." I think I really feel that where we are now, music is like the healer and the doctor. I say a lot on my videos because it brings everyone together, and it does help a lot of people with their mental health and everything else. So I think music, is such a powerful art form, unique, really.
I've never met anyone. No, I have met one person once who said they did. Actually, it was a taxi driver the other day who said he did not like music.
Really?
He was a Muslim driver, though, so he probably was quite sort of severe. He might have been quite religious because he was from Afghanistan, where they don't allow music in a lot of places. So it does heal things. And in 1990, for 11 years, I had my own radio show that went out through the ORF, which is the equivalent of the BBC, but from Vienna. And it was called Globetrotting with Gillespie. And I specialized in African, Indian, Arabic, and blues music, because my thinking was if everyone understood each other's music, they'd be less likely to stab each other or bop each other on the head.
That's true.
Sadly, I'm a bit idealistic. And the show closed after 11 years. And sadly, it was heard everywhere in Europe, but never in England, because I couldn't get a station that would take it. But it was quite a big thing across Europe. And every taxi I got into in, let's say, Vienna, from whence it was recorded, they all knew me because they played music that they understood, because all the taxi drivers are Arabic or Indian or Turkish or whatever. So they love this kind of music. And it's a great communicator. It can make you cry. It can make you smile. It can make you excited. It can make you want to go and stick your head in a gas oven if you're depressed, if you hear a sad bit of music. And it's interesting if one watches, let's say, Desert Island Discs, no matter which 8 tracks they choose, nearly everyone will put one classical piece of music in, and they nearly always choose that as the one they take as the special one onto the island, because there's something about, I don't listen that much to classical music, but when I do, it moves me almost too much. So I have to switch off to something more mundane sometimes.
Because I know you did quite a few spiritual albums, as you said earlier. Has that crept into your kind of love of blues? Are the worlds different, or are they intertwined in your psyche?
Well, in a way, I find them rather similar. The spiritual music, don't forget in the 60s when Jimmy Page was on my first album, long before Led Zeppelin, we used to nip off to listen to sitar concerts. It sounds silly now, but in those days it was very difficult to even find a stick of incense. And there weren't any Indian shops. There were no corner shops in those days. So, and then musicians have always had an interest in spirituality. Look at George Harrison and, Ravi Shankar and everything. And even the Yardbirds used a sitar in an early recording. I can't remember which one. Was it not For Your Love? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So I've always had a leaning. And then about 45 years ago, somebody gave me a book called Man of Miracles about an Indian guru or spiritual master called Sai Baba. And I did something I never do normally. I leapt on a plane 3 weeks later thinking I must go and see if what I've read is true. And while I was there, and it was true, by the way, but while I was there, I kept hearing this music and I'm thinking, this is so amazing. I should try and do some of this, but slightly more easier on the Western ear. So I came back, and in those days, this was before CDs had been invented. So if you bought an Indian cassette, by the time you got it home and played it, the whole thing had broken.
Fallen apart, yeah.
They always fall apart. The Indian cassettes were famous for being useless. So I've done, there was a type of music called bhajans, which they sing, and you can be any religion. This is what I liked about Sai Baba, that was his name. He said, I don't care if you're Hindu, Muslim, Catholic, Protestant, Buddhist, whatever, or nothing. Just be a better person. Love all and serve all. That's the slogan of the day. And I was very taken with this. And my mother, even in her 80s, used to come with me to see Sai Baba. And I think I'm the only Western artist that was ever asked to sing for him every year. And I've sung in front of over 1 million people for him, with him sitting on the stage next to me. They'd come to see him, actually, not me, but I was there singing. So I think music has a spiritual side to it. You kind of go into another realm. And if I was feeling ill and I had a concert and I still went and did the concert, by the end of the concert, I would be not ill, because music heals. It just makes you feel better. I mean, you may still have aches and pains, and I'm talking about sort of aches and pains, arthritic in my case, but while the music is on, it lifts you to other places, and it just...
Totally agree. Yeah.
It touches people, which is
Totally
marvelous. By the way, are you near that amazing... I've seen pictures of it, that theatre that's sort of next to
the Minack Theatre that's on the cliffs, yes, and it's about half an hour drive from where I live. Yeah.
Do they ever do concerts there? I mean,
they do. They do, yeah. They do, yeah.
I probably need to find out who puts them on. It
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
amazing to have it filmed from there.
Oh gosh, that would be spectacular. Yeah, probably the most spectacular natural backdrop in the world.
If you get a sunny day.
Oh yes. If you get a sunny day, it's marvelous. If you don't, not so much.
Yeah.
There is one original song on the album which fits in so well with everything else that you wouldn't know. If someone said, "Oh, there's one of the songs is on this original," you'd have to have a look to see which one it was. They all blend so well. So, what's the background to this particular song?
Well, I'd recorded it for another album, actually, but which is not been released. So I got a slightly different version of it. It's called First Love, Last Love. And at my marvelous age, I can look back and remember my first love. I mean, everyone remembers their first love, whether it was good, bad, a disaster, or marvelous. They're usually not that marvelous with the first love, but you don't forget them. And then, I'm 75, as I said, so the last love is going to be the most important one. Hopefully the one that holds your hand when you're dribbling and senile, or, being pushed in a wheelchair, who knows? But the last one, so it's all about the first and the last. I kind of see this song as, in a way, like my bookends of my life. I mean, I've had such a full life in between. And finally, unfortunately, I wrote my memoirs called Weren't Born a Man, and they came out during COVID, which meant that the bookstores were all closed.
Oh, dear.
It was kind of unfortunate timing. But it took me 8 years to find a publisher who would be willing to take the chance. But for people that love Bowie and Dylan and everything, there's loads of pictures in it that nobody else could ever have seen, because I took them with my Polaroids, which was fun. But so First Love, Last Love, and maybe the whole album in a way, because of the Dylan and Bowie, and just, I mean, I'm a woman of experience now. I've been round the block many, many a time, and I felt that's really why I was asked to do Jesus Christ Superstar. You've got to be, in a way, I was jokingly saying, you got to be the tart with the heart, but you have to look like you've lived, and I have lived, and I've got so many stories about my life that I wanted to get this experience, which is in my voice, onto record.
And finally, coming to the end of the interview now, is that with such a wonderful album as this, that's about to come out into the world, so all of you watching and listening to this, make sure you go and buy a physical copy. It's going to be on, I think it's red vinyl and CD as well. Are you going to incorporate some of these songs into your live set? I know you said it's not technically blues for your band, but surely it would work really well, wouldn't it?
Well, I did a gig last week at the Temple of Art and Music, and we did Spent the Day in Bed in it, but two of the guys had never, no, it wasn't Spent the Day in Bed. What did we do? We did Gods and Monsters.
Oh, yeah.
People in the band, I had to have 2 stand-ins because my other band was busy. They'd not heard it before, so they kind of winged it. They buxed along. But I'm singing on Sunday at a club here called the 606 Club, and we will do Gods and Monsters and It's Not Dark Yet, because I think blues is a certain style, but I might be able to sneak a few in. And I now do sing Andy Warhol in my blues set, much to the horror probably of a few blues purists. And I had a #1 hit in Europe with a song called Move Your Body Close to Me in the 80s. I sometimes bring that in. And I even do an Indian song. If you punch in my name with a word, 2 words, Om Shakti,
Oh,
onto
yeah, yeah.
YouTube, then you will be able to see me in front of 1 million people singing.
Wow, okay, I'll do that.
And this goes into my set as well, and is one of the big hits in the set, which is odd because I did it in Ronnie Scott's, which is, serious jazz, and they hardly even let blues people in, they're mostly jazz. So I sneak them in when I can.
Yeah, but
it's all the same. Music is just music.
It is. I mean, even because Dreams is so different than the original, you could turn that into a kind of smoky blues type song, really, in a way.
I could. I've just got to get my piano player Dino Baptiste to actually pull his finger out and learn it. He does about 10 gigs a week. He works all the time. He's phenomenal. But we are on Sunday. We're going to dip our toe in the water and do two songs.
Superb. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Dana. It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you.
Dana, you lapsed into Dana. It's Dana, right?
Dana, yes. My wife Sue said, she said, you need to practice this more and more and more. So she said that might happen, and it just did. So
it just did. I know, but I think, well, I don't mind correcting people as long as you don't mind standing corrected.
No, not at all. Well, the album's out on May the 31st, and it's called where's my notes? It's called First Love,
and it's on a label called Fretzel
Records, and
I'm very proud of it.
It's absolutely beautiful. As I say, give it a listen, everybody, because it's really, really beautiful album.
It'll make people feel good instead of making you want to go and slash your wrists.
It will indeed. Well, thank you very much
for talking to me.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. A huge thank you to my guest, Dana Gillespie, for her time today and talking about her album, First Love. It's an absolutely superb record. Her voice just suits the blues. And some of these songs, as you said when we were talking, could easily be blues songs. And my favorites were Boulevard of Broken Dreams, which is from a Green Day originally. And it's such a strong melody, and hearing it like this gives the song literally a different spin. And the others, as I said during the interview, are In a Broken Dream. Originally, I think it was Jeff Beck, was it? And Rod Stewart. It came under Python Lee Jackson, I think it was. It's slowed down. It's reflective. It's a little bit melancholy stuff, but again, easily seen as a blues song. And Dreams, which of course is one of the most famous songs ever recorded, because of being by Fleetwood Mac and from the album Rumours. But here it's stripped back and relaunched with a totally different personality, but with the same feel. This is a wonderful album, and it's out on CD and also vinyl as well. I think it's quite a short pressing run on the vinyl, so it's well worth getting. And remember, music is the healer and the doctor. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Please subscribe. Check out the website at naspinning.co.uk. Wherever you are on social media, so are we. So keep spinning those discs, and I shall see you all very, very soon.